Welcome back, everyone. Today I think that I should probably go into a bit more detail on how the bottom of my 720 block 6x6 actually works. Whereas in my tutorial I just kind of skimmed over the actual inner workings of how the sequence works. This time I assure you I will explain everything and how it achieves what it does in the time that it does, because the bottom quad I think is one of the most fascinating parts of this entire door, because it's, despite being really tiny, it's actually quite fast. So the first thing we're going to need to do is, of course, take an output from right here to demonstrate it. So I'm going to place a lever right here. So you can see on the closing I'll do this, and the opening I'll do this. On the closing it's actually going to be one tick faster. If we place an observer right here on the closing, it'll be instantaneous, but on the opening it'll wait a tick, and that's very necessary for the start of the quad, which is quite fast, but it still takes roughly 4 ticks from when the lever is flicked for the quad to start extending. Well, actually, no, it's 3 ticks. But it takes approximately like 6 ticks for the blocks to get there. So we have to wait 5 ticks for this line here to extend, which we do using the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 ticks is going to be right here. So we're technically retracting the blocks as early as possible. And the reason for this is because we need this tape right here. This counter only has 5 items in it as a maximum, because as you can see, the bottom barely extends enough time to allow enough time for the tape to get by. Like, it's very, very close. Then you can see the tape barely makes it to right here, so I didn't have to slow it on the top anymore. Like, literally, that's game tick perfect, I think. It literally can't be any later than how it is, so it's kind of epic. Anyway, the tape, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. You literally just start it by giving a pulse through there. You can see it just goes. Pretty simple. You get a pulse from here, and it powers this piston. That's why it's locational. And you have this right here powering this side, and there's a torch on this observer. So it just kind of does a standard tape thing. And on this side, it does another standard tape thing. This dust powers this piston, another locational thing. And then this lamp powers this piston twice. It's very important that it powers twice for a thing we'll do later. But I'll get onto that later. So first thing is we're going to power these pistons at the right time. And to do that, there's going to be a slab for later. Oops. Oh, pink. Green. And of course, I'll be replacing these blocks later as opposed to the tutorial, because of course there's more things to explain. So right here, that's it. We have our top right here. And now one of the most important parts is we have to power this line of pistons right here. And we achieve this by using a 0-tick slider. And that's going to be positioned right here. And this doesn't get powered by the tape for some weird reason. I don't know. It's just too fast, I guess. A lot of things in this door make no sense to me, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, so we're going to have this. It's going to push over. We're going to have, of course, this right here. Make sure that block is a slab. We're going to need that ceiling block to be solid. And we're going to double this tape piston here as a 0-tick updater. And also, one other thing to note is that this extending at the right time will actually block part of our chain that we're about to make right here. So from this, it was found that it was most efficient to, as now just place a dropper facing downwards here, power this like so. 2 ticks, well, it's the actual power of that piston is going to be happening 4 ticks after this storage retracts, which is fairly important. And that's going to be allowing us to, of course, get this to start working. So if we power this, we can get the first part of our storage. And now all we have to do is power this line of bottom pistons, which we do a bit irregularly. So we're going to take an output from here down into a hopper. We're just going to pretend this is a slab for now. It has to be an observer later, but because of that, we need to place a dropper right here because it needs to get powered by quasi-connectivity. And this just so happens to power at the right time. Of course, we're going to have this right here. This is necessary because for a couple of reasons, actually, because this dropper is the only thing to get powered, and we have to make sure that we have a hopper here because we're going to have a piston here in the wiring later. So we're going to power these over the span of 3 ticks, which of course isn't the most ideal, but it was what we had to do, or what I had to do. There was no we. I was the only one that worked on this door. Anyway, so we're going to make this chain right here that's going to be responsible for the entire storage. So you can see if we do this, it's barely enough time because if you leave 1 tick of room between powering this one and that one for the second time, it still works. see right there because of the way it works. I don't know, it's just always been something consistent that always seems to work. So that's going to be the storage circuit all done. As you can see, that did actually take up a considerable amount of space here, but we reuse a lot of the storage through like literally everything, so it's not all that bad when you think about it. Alright, so that's the main part of the storage. Now all that's left to do is to push the blocks up for the tape, and we do that with a sequence that pretty much does like also a lot of the quad retraction, which is going to be this circuit right here. And just for simplicity's sake, I'll make it barriers for now. These blocks right here, these two inputs are going to be barriers, just so we can see it better. So what we're going to do is have a 3-tick repeater right here. That's going to be giving 2 pulses to this line after we power this line once. And what that'll do, if I just place an observer here, oops, that's the wrong way. You can see it'll do something like that. And while that's not in itself particularly like significant, it's really useful throughout the entire door. And as you can see, if we want to retract it, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to need an updater right here, the rail right there. Now you can see it should retract itself just fine. And so to push the blocks up for the tape now, we're going to need to extend the storage. And we already linked the storage to this observer extender right here. And since these observers are always going to power the bottom ones before the top ones, we can simply just power the storage after this. Just power the storage line, and you can see the blocks get pushed up for the tape. So that's really cool, because we can also apply that to different parts of the door for the quad retraction, which I'll show later actually. And so we're going to achieve that. Just going to hook this up to this right here. 1-tick repeater right here. And then this right here. And that's why this block needs to be a slab, so it doesn't power on both edges. So this times up just perfectly for if we want to extend this. So I'm just going to put everything back here. So now you can see, if we want to extend the blocks for the quad, it does that. So this little system right here is particularly useful in that respect. So, all right, and the way we're going to power this circuit from the storage right here, we're going to take an output from this block from here. We're going to have this run around down here. So this is actually perfectly timed to dodge the extra slider pulse that's going to be going through here after the second storage is fired. You can see this is going to happen after 5 ticks, and this happens after 4. So it's going to dodge it. The pistons in the stack will be moving when the 0-tick takes place. And since the 0-tick, it only happens for like literally an instant in time, so we don't have to worry about it like being like a 1-tick or whatever. So you can see now if we test this, it'll close. We'll just get one redundant move afterwards. See if the blocks are all pushed down, like on the opening. We will push everything up for the tape. All right, anyway, so the tape will run like this. So we're going to need to take an output from this tape after it's done to start the quad retraction, because that's like the only method of doing it, because the top just spans everything like 3 times. How are you supposed to take an output from that? You can see the output from here is pretty blocked. So our only option really is to take an output from the spammed piston. As you can see, it's very important that it gets spammed, because we can use it to take items out of this dropper. So you can see, if we place 19 items in there, where's my yellow wool? There it is. We can take an output from this dropper. If we run the tape again, you can see that the items will slowly be taken out of this dropper, because this is pulsing it faster than the item can go back in through the hopper. So you can see it's going to turn off right as the tape is done, and then turn right back on. So we can use that right here to retract the blocks down after the tape. You can see that at the end of these 19 items, see that we'll have this slider go and retract the blocks down after the tape is done. Like that. We get an extra pulse because this thing depowers and then powers again, which we will use. But now the next problem that we need to face is to retract the blocks in after that. Also, I don't have these in there. Oops. So the way we do that is quite simply just to connect this side of the tape 2 more observers into there. It also powers this chain right here, which would be detrimental if it wasn't blocked by this. It just kind of just so happens that this piston times correctly to block this from powering. That was actually a very dangerous game to update it there because I could have actually powered it by accident. So now you can see it retracts the blocks. So now all we have to do is actually power this line right here, and then we can leech off of this to power the double extender. So when this thing goes, we can just simply have this slider power, and then we can retract them back down again. And that'll set us up perfectly for what we're going to do next, which is this circuit. So how we're going to do that is by running a 4-tick repeater out of a block right here. We're going to have this run across and up, and that 7 ticks there will give us just the right amount of timing. And we're actually going to have well, I could just have a block there, I think, right? Anyway, yeah, that's a cool discovery I made. This doesn't have to be a dust. So what that'll do is if we just activate the tape again, just do this manually. We've got a double extender will now work. Sorry, this observer slider like blocks everything. You just kind of have to see what's going on there. It'll do that. So it's a bit slow, but it works fine. It was really the only way we could get it to work. But now, as you can see, if we power this, some interesting things will happen. Aha! So you can see that the same sequence that worked for the retraction is also going to work, or for the extension, is also going to work for part of the retraction. You can see that this chain that happens after the retraction is really useful for retracting the blocks at this level. So that's really nice, and we want to have that happen. So just push the blocks up for the quad again. The way we're going to get that pulse is by running a observer out of this. This is the aforementioned piston there. We're going to have this happen on the falling edge, and then we're going to have a block here. Hopper. Just place a lever on this block. I'm going to delete that for now. So we're going to have an observer right there. Place this. And a block right here. So now, you can see we have a lot of our retraction already done. So that is actually quite a lot, but of course this leaves us in a rather awkward place because of there really is no good way to retract this if we have this chain still in place, because the storage will mess up a lot. It'll like push the observers out and everything, because everything about that storage just happens at like the perfectly wrong time. So what needs to be done actually is we're going to have to disable this part of the extension. Or the yellow circuit thing here. We have to disable that part. So we're going to be doing this with a piston right here. Just going to have a block on that for now. And a concrete powder. And we can toggle this pretty easily from down here. So now you can see we have quite a solid plan here. So now if we disable this, we actually have to do one pulse to the storage. So just kind of like power this. Have to do one pulse to that storage. And so now what we can do is we can actually, it was found that we could give this a double pulse. So because of the fact that this powers in 4 ticks, that allows this to have enough time to retract. So what'll happen is, do something like that. And the significance of that is we can actually use this slider right here and just give 2 well-timed pulses to the slider. It's going to be this, I think. Yeah, that's the timing. So if we just hook that up to there, we can actually get the full retraction, and then we can just simply re-enable this at the end. And so what we're actually going to do first is solve the problem of that stray pulse to pull back the storage afterwards. And then we're going to simply do this by having an observer here, have a block right here, repeater on it. I'm going to just break that repeater temporarily, have an observer there, and we can just go into this space and have this pulse run into this line. So that'll happen when this retracts down, and the sand on it will fall down and we can just replace this piston. So now when this pulls down, it'll just give a straight pulse to storage, which is what we need, and when it pushes back up, it does nothing. So all that's left to do now is give this double pulse and sort out a couple of the problems with the slider, and then that should be the entire quad retraction. So what we're actually going to do to achieve this is take an output from here, and a fun fact about this slider thing, we can actually chain it to this right here, and it doesn't really do anything. So let me just quickly spam this with items so it silences. So if we give this a double pulse, it actually doesn't matter. It just powers on the first edge and then gets blocked by this on the second. So that's kind of nice, because we're going to be using this hopper to get our double pulse into this line over here. And then we're going to cancel the double pulse again to this side by using a 2-tick repeater. And so that'll cancel the double pulse. We're actually going to use this right here because this happens really late. Place observers there. And so that line will run this over to here. And we can simply use this space that we kind of had stored away. Kind of just had this from the beginning. You can kind of just run that over to there. Remember to place that dust back for the storage. I'm going to place our rail back on top of that. Replace everything that I broke. All right, so now after putting in that circuit, we can activate this. And so you get that stray storage pulse afterwards. And we can actually chain this first pulse right here in order to get the correct timing for when we push these up with the double pulse. We can actually use that extra pulse that comes through to do the first one of that. So the way we can get that double pulse, well, you can see if we actually do the double pulse, because of the chains that we have, we actually get something pretty, we get one of them because of the one chain that we put right here. We get the second pulse, and that's the one that we needed to get, because we can just simply take the first pulse from this storage chain. So all I have to do is time it correctly. As you can see, after we did the double pulse, this pops right back up afterwards. So now if we were to power this again, it's reset for the closing. So we're going to get this pulse. This is a bit annoying to get. Just delete all these things. Has to be an observer. We're going to be spamming a lot of observers here. Place the 2-tick repeater. Wait, oh, let's be at rail, up, observer. Okay, so we're going to get that double pulse right here, piston here, and that there. All right, this double pulse is actually going to be 1 tick too early for us to grab the chain from this, as you can see. Well, I'm not going to demonstrate it. It just is. It's a fact. It's going to be 1 tick too early, and that'll also cause everything here to mess up. So the simple way to fix this is, because if we give this dropper a 2-tick pulse, we can just kind of like stifle this one. It'll only get one output. So we can simply achieve that by having an output from this piston and then updating this dropper with a rail. Oops. Oh no. All right, so now we can do the tape. Should be everything done. There you go. See, it resets that, and everything is good. I can just replace this. Now you can see our door in fully working order. I hope you found this explanation video of sorts very entertaining. Probably wasn't very entertaining because it's just a bunch of redstone stuff. Anyway, that's the door. Hopefully you understand it now after that.